Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Planning Commission. Today's date is Thursday, January 28th, 2016. The time is currently 7:03 p.m. Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Ramirez,
Here.
Commissioner Corsack,
Present.
Commissioner Vanetta,
Present.
Commissioner Baker,
Here.
Commissioner Barnes,
Here.
Vice Chair Sims,
Here.
Chair Lowell,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Nickel,
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Ramirez is offered to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. That moves us to the approval of tonight's agenda. I don't see a vote button on here. Approval of minutes. Let's try it again. Nope, can't vote. Would anyone like to motion to approve tonight's agenda? Oh, there we go.
I move to approve the agenda.
Oh, backwards. Mr. Sims beat you to it, so Mr. Sims motions and you seconded.
Okay, then I will.
Actually, it's seconded by Mr. Baker.
Okay, I don't get to
It's
do
all
anything.
screwy.
I'm going to vote yes.
There you go. Okay, so we're good to go. The vote is 7-0. Tonight's agenda has been approved. That's awesome. Moves us on to the consent calendar. I do not believe we have any items on the consent calendar tonight, do we?
We do not have any items, but normally we would have approval of minutes. I just want to let the commission know that we are behind in our minutes coming to you. We've had a little bit of a glitch. We reconciled that, and so we are expeditiously trying to catch up on all the previous minutes. So you probably will see a series of them on an upcoming agenda. So my apologies, but I do want to keep you posted that we are fixing that. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. So that was our consent calendar. We don't have any minutes to approve, which brings us to the public comments portion of tonight's meeting. Do we have any, let me back up. I'd like to open the public comments for items not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker slips tonight?
No, we do not.
Perfect, then I will close the public comments portion, which moves us on to the non-public hearing items, which, again, I don't believe we have any non-public hearing items.
We have none.
Perfect, and that moves us on to our first public hearing item for tonight, which is case P15-048. The applicant, check that, P15-084. The applicant is Prologis, and the case planner is Mr. Vince Giron.
Good evening, Chair Lowe and members of the Planning Commission. Tonight you have case P15-084 before you by Prologis. The applicant has submitted a request for the vacation of Joy Street north of Brodea Avenue in accordance with the conditions of approval for tentative parcel map 36465 and plot plan PA12-0021. The parcel map will combine 3 adjacent parcels into one parcel and allow for the construction of a proposed warehouse building. The project conditions of approval require the vacation of Joy Street in order to accommodate the project's proposed building. Specifically, the vacation must be completed prior to the issuance of building permits in order to allow the construction of the building. Pursuant to the State Highway Code, a finding from the Planning Commission that the vacation of Joy Street is in conformance with the current general plan and zoning ordinance is required prior to the formal review and action by the City Council on the requested vacation. In terms of the surrounding area, to the west of the project site, it's a vacant property zoned office. Southwest is Riverside County Waste Management offices. To the north, there are vacant property zoned community commercial. And to the east and south are developed property zoned light industrial. In the review process, so the land development staff has reviewed the requests for the vacation based on recent existing parcel maps and other information provided by the applicant. Staff has determined that the vacation of Joy Street, as shown in the exhibit, attached exhibit to the proposed resolution, is consistent with section 66477.5 of the Government Code and in accordance with section 8300 of the Streets and Highways Code. Planning staff has reviewed the applicant's request to vacate this portion of Joy Street and has determined that it's consistent with the city's zoning ordinance and general plan. Joy Street is not a required general plan street and is not required to provide access to the proposed development project or adjacent properties. Any existing utilities will be protected in place with easements or relocated by the applicant as required by the conditions of approval. The previously approved plot plan, PA 12-0021, anticipated the vacation of Joy Street. Pardon me, this is for the environmental portion of it. The anticipated vacation of Joy Street from Brodea Avenue to approximately 600 feet north of Brodea Avenue, and was included as an element of the project per condition of approval LD 45B for the plot plan. The vacation is a subsequent discretionary action that falls within the scope of the environmental impact report previously certified by the City Council on December 11th, 2012 for plot plan PA 12-0021, and does not constitute a new or separate project requiring a separate environmental determination. In terms of public noticing, public notice was sent to all property owners of record within 300 feet of the project. A public hearing notice for this project was also posted on the project site and published in the local newspaper. Review agency comments, there were some comments that were returned to us by EMWD. And if I can just interject at this moment, I believe a memo was passed. That memo you have before you is in reference to another agency, which is Southern California Gas Company, that also notified us as recent as today that they would also like to have an easement reserved for their facilities. And part of this memo also updates the exhibits that are attached to the resolution that you're being asked to approve tonight. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve resolution number 2016-1 and hereby recommends that the City Council recognize that the vacation of Joy Street falls within the scope of the environmental impact report certified for plot plan PA 12-0021 by the City Council on December 11th, 2012. Therefore, no new or additional environmental review or determination is required, and approve application P15084 for the vacation of Joy Street, for the vacation of a portion of Joy Street located north of Brodea Avenue, based on the findings contained in this resolution. That concludes my report.
And just for clarification, thanks, Vince, on that report. The recommended action, since the green handout that's on your dais this evening contains an additional exhibit that's been modified, the resolution itself also has been modified, so we're asking you, your action to be on what's on the green sheet, not what was in the staff report.
Thank you very much. I do have a couple questions real quick for staff. On the green sheet, it says the subject says Planning Commission Agenda Item Number 2, but I think it should be Agenda Item Number 1. I don't think that really matters, but just for clarity. Similarly, on the public hearing item, it says Council District Number 5. I know we've been redistricted to 4 districts. Is that still accurate?
Forgive me. Yes, it should be item number 1. And in terms of the district, could you please repeat that?
I know we're in the process of being redistricted to 4 districts and then 1 at-large mayor. So is District 5 still applicable?
This is the current district.
Okay.
That's correct.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions for staff before we move to the applicant?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Commissioner.
Should the utility reservation be included in the legal description?
At this point, the legal description as written is per the current legal description as it is, as it's owned by the property owner. When the resolution, when it goes on to council and they approve the same legal description and virtually the same plat, after that, it goes through a process of what we call perfecting the deed, which is handled by the property owner through the title company. When a new grant deed is written or drawn up, it will include the legal description of the property. Well, it will be the legal description of the property as you see it in the staff report, and also include that portion of Joy Street that was vacated via the resolution by the City Council. So now it should not be in there. We'll recommend that it's not be included at this time, since it is not the legal description currently as it stands, but it will be at some point in the legal description.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I didn't understand that.
How should I say, in a simpler way, the legal description, the way it's written now, it's describing that area that is being vacated. What Commissioner Barnes was referring to is, should the easements also be included in the legal description as it's written in Exhibit A, I believe. So if you take a look at Exhibit A, it describes Joy Street. It doesn't include any reservations at this time. However, in the future, when the vacation is approved by City Council, the legal description will change via a process through the title company.
That's I'm sorry. So how does that affect the easement reservation?
Well,
What, can I ask a question
Sure.
on that? Don't they, the vacation document that outlines the boundary of the vacation would be filed with the title company, and then it'd be a kind of concurrent when they file the new legal description for the it's kind of they both go and kind of go concurrent. Isn't that kind of the way it works?
I guess my question is that once the street is vacated, there is no easement because everything's been vacated.
with the
So-
exception,
At such time as the perfecting deeds come back, you'd be reinstating the easement because the vacation of the street eliminates it. Seems like the proper way is to preserve the utility easement until such time as they're abandoned, and then they can quitclaim that. The perfecting deed would still go to the center line. The utility portion of the right-of-way would stay in place, but that's just my opinion.
that is correct, the way you described it, Commissioner Barnes, that the deed, the reservations will be quitclaimed once all the utilities all the utility companies have abandoned those facilities. So it's a requirement of the developer to demolish, abandon per the requirements of the utilities. Once it's abandoned per those requirements, the utility companies will then quitclaim those reservations within Joy Street back to the property owner. At that point in time, the property owner will now have full access to that portion of what was once Joy Street.
So you're saying that the action that we're taking tonight to vacate the street does not eliminate the easement?
That's correct. We're asking to reserve two easements, one for Eastern Municipal Water District and one for Southern California Gas Company.
You're biting your tongue, Mr. Barnes.
Yeah, I am. You're right.
Well,
Shockingly.
I mean, it isn't for all intents and purposes the public right of way. I mean, if the parcel map created the street, there would be a utility reservation for the whole entire,
Yes,
for the
And-
entire Joy Street
right.
that's being vacated.
correct.
So
Right.
it's kind of a semantics thing.
But what he's saying is that by vacating the street without having in the legal description an easement, there will be no easement for a period of time until the easement is granted again.
right. And once it comes back, I guess that's my question, is the street vacated first and then the easement is reserved? Because once you've vacated everything, when the property owners reserve it, it's not specifically to the public. It seems like you should preserve the public utility easement until
As part
such
of the legal
time.
description.
That's correct. The street will be vacated for road and public purposes, all with the exception of the two easements that we're asking to be reserved. And in the resolution, as one of the facts, we are mentioning that if I can find it, one moment here. It's under the resolution, under item B1, the last sentence, that all existing utilities will be protected in place within easements or relocated by the applicant to the satisfaction of the affected utility. And what this amounts to in this case is that only 2 utility companies have requested that.
I mean, I guess, isn't it, it's not really separate. Eastern doesn't have a separate easement to, it's
Just a
one-
public utility
It's just a public utility corridor, so they're first in place, first in time, they're just there until
That is,
it abandoned.
that is correct. And when this goes to city council, there will also be a statement in the resolution that is reserving easements for those 2 public utilities. In the future, when everything's been abandoned to their satisfaction, they will then quitclaim those easements to the property owner.
Okay, then what I don't understand is if that's the way it already was in the resolution, that the existing utilities would be protected in place, then what was the purpose for this other memorandum that we were given, telling us that Southern California Gas Company has requested an easement reservation if it was already reserved?
It's, I guess, it's to be more specific for which utility companies. It isn't for every utility, public utility company that's
So
within the
it's
street.
specifying that
It's-
Eastern Municipal Water District and the gas company have easements, not Verizon, not,
Yes,
It
The
doesn't
original
say
version,
any-
the original version just has EMWD.
correct.
The amended version says EMWD and gas company. That's the only
correct.
real revision.
Okay.
and that's what you get when you have 2 engineers and a land surveyor up here.
Sorry, guys.
And just to clarify what action is being sought from the commission tonight, it's simply that you certify that this vacation is consistent with the general plan. The actual vacation will take place by the council.
Correct. With that said, do we have any more questions for staff?
Is this the resolution that goes to the city council?
It will
Or is it-
it will be
Not the
different.
resolution vacating the thing. This is simply a resolution that this commission
Okay.
certifies that it's consistent with the general plan.
Okay.
This is your resolution.
I'm okay with that.
Jeff,
I'm good.
Joy Street is gonna go on vacation to Cancun.
And I'm going with it.
All right.
Okay, with that said, I'd like to invite the applicant up if they'd like to say something, which I don't see anybody coming up here. Do we have any, okay, with that, I'll move on to the public comments portion. Do we have any public comments or speaker slips tonight?
No, we do not.
Man, this is contentious. Okay, I'd like to close the public comments portion. And moving on to commissioner discussion. Do we have any more comments or questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion? Let's see if I can get this going.
Only after Mr. Barnes.
I don't see the voting button up here, Erica. No voting button. Let's just go the old-fashioned way. Would anybody like to make a motion on this item tonight? Nobody speaking? Fine, I'll make the motion.
I was,
Oh, I
I
can't
was
motion.
trying to hit the mover button before I
got the
said
mover.
anything because,
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Vanetta. Read the motion and
sure. Move that the planning commission recommends that the city council recognize that the vacation of Joy Street falls within the scope of the environmental impact report and approve the application for P 15-084 for the vacation of the portion of Joy Street as presented by staff.
And do we still have a second by Commissioner Sims?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Would we like to vote? See some communication back there. Was that an okay motion?
That was an okay motion.
Okay. Continuing the vote. Okay, all votes have been cast. Last chance. 3, 2, 1. Motion passes 7-0. Do we have a staff wrap-up on this item?
This item will be moving forward to the city council, you as an advisory body. As we just discussed, your recommendation is contained in the resolution, so there's no wrap-up.
Perfect. Then we go into other commissioner business, which I don't think we have any. We have staff comments. Have any?
I do have a comment. We originally planned on having a second item here tonight at this commission meeting. Had to do with the medical marijuana legislation that went into effect at the beginning of the year and is giving local agencies up until March 1st to consider or adopt more specific regulations with regard to medical marijuana. because we want to err on the side of caution, we removed it from this agenda, and we'd like you to be adjourning your meeting tonight to another meeting on February 11th, rather than going to February 25th. That would be a placeholder. We're actually putting the notice in the newspaper on Sunday for that meeting, but I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Paul Early to kind of give you an update on what's going on at the state, which may allow us not to have to come back. So,
Okay.
Yes, the main issue here is that the new state laws, when they were enacted, had a provision in there that said that if your city has a land use regulation regulating the cultivation of marijuana prior to March 1st, 2016, then the city can continue to regulate in that area. But if we do not have such an ordinance, the state takes over. So you may have seen or heard of this, but jurisdictions everywhere have been rushing to enact some sort of regulation, a land use regulation, just to get ahead of that March 1st deadline. And that's in fact what we were bringing to the Planning Commission. It's actually legislation that we actually already have, but we want to move it into our zoning code so that it meets the definition of a land use regulation. There's been an amendment that's been being rushed through the House. It passed the Senate, I understand, today and was sent to the governor for a signature, which removes that March 1st deadline. So we expect, and from what we're hearing is the governor is going to sign it, we expect in the next few days that that March 1st deadline will be removed and we won't have to go through this rush process. There's still a desire from the City Council's Public Safety Subcommittee meeting to bring forth some discussion on regulating the cultivation of marijuana in the city, but we'll be able to do a more thorough and comprehensive review of that and bring that to you at a future time. So at this point, we want to keep the February 11th on schedule, just in case the governor doesn't sign it, so that we can bring it to the City Council on February 14th in time to meet that March 1st deadline. But it's very likely that it'll be taken off a calendar.
that would be the only staff comments we had, with a little clarification, but also just want to welcome you guys back here in the new year. So it's good to see you guys again.
Thank you very much. Any other comments for the commissioners? Nope. With that, I would like to, so would we be adjourning to the February 25th meeting, or would we be adjourning to a different date?
February 11th.
Perfect. With that, I would like to adjourn tonight's meeting to the next regular meeting of the Planning Commission, which is February 11th, 2016 at 7 p.m. right here in City Hall, Council Chambers. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.